Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your eternal hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Today we will look at the topic of having a very long lifespan through the lens of two very different protagonists. First, I will tackle Undead Unluck, where a suicidal girl who brings misfortune on everyone she touches runs into an immortal warrior that, as it happens, is on the lookout for someone who can grant him his final death. After that, we will review Frieren, a story that begins where most other ones wrap up and follows the steps of the elf woman Frieren, the titular elf woman Frieren, on her pilgrimage of self-discovery and reflection beyond her first journey's end. And of course, since it's our season finale, we will give you our picks for best anime of the season. Before all of that, let's first take a look at all the shows and movies that didn't quite make it to a full review in The Quick and the Dead. So grab your favorite person that makes the little moments worthwhile, break the cycle by fixing your gaze on a new beginning waiting for you at the end of the road, and definitely don't pause the pod. We'll be right back. So yeah, this is one of the rare occurrences where I think I have a lot more to talk about in The Quick and the Dead than John does. I mean, it had to happen at some point, so I guess this is the day. So I will start us off, otherwise I will be talking for an even longer time than usual because, the Undead Unluck review is after that and I am the only one who watched that, so yes.
I just didn't watch a whole lot this season. I think I got out some of the other stuff that I watched on the side before we talked about Attack on Titan, so...
Yeah. So, what is there to talk about in The Quick and the Dead? I'm finally all caught up with One Piece again. Shocker. Like, I binged 100 episodes, even more maybe? I don't know. I had to finish up the rest of the Wano arc, and that had piled up. So, yeah.
I'm still in double digits. Oops.
Well, there you go. But yeah, Wano was fun. Of course, as is standard with One Piece these days. Some of the stuff dragged a bit, but most of the battles were fun. There were some cool developments and everything. And the animation quality, man, really, really went through the roof in the later episodes. Really, really, really crazy good stuff. Like, Toei is on another level these days. It's crazy. And they continue that in the next arc, which is the Egghead arc, which is kind of future themed, like the crewmates go to a future themed cyber island, whatever, get funky cyber gear. It's wild and it's a lot of fun, lots of sci-fi stuff, new cool OP that is super good, and it really feels like we're gearing up for the finale finally after all this time. Like, lots of reveals concerning past events, some big shakeups in the status quo of the world after Wano, and there's like a lot of foreshadowing that, hey, this is where we're probably gonna go in the not too distant future. So yeah, having a lot of fun watching it weekly again now that I'm all caught up. So yeah, hopefully still much more surprises to come.
I look forward to hearing about them eventually finding the One Piece.
Yes, we all know those are the friends they made along the way. And the laughter that resulted in that, because the final island is called Laughter.
Oh, God, no, come on.
I'm not kidding, John. That is actually...
Oda!
So, all right. But yeah, aside from that, I watched a couple of movies in the movie theater because, sometimes anime make their way there. And if I can, if I can make it happen to watch them there, if I'm interested and they show around here, which is not necessarily the case, I will try to watch them in the theater on the big screen. So I watched a very oldie but goodie and a very newie and goodie. First starting off with Lupin the Third, Castle of Cagliostro. The Miyazaki Lupin third movie. Really good, holds up. Of course. Miyazaki directed the shit out of it. It's really fun. There's a lot of shit happening on screen. It's wild. A lot of goofy antics. A lot of cool things in that castle that is the main set piece of the movie. A lot of fun characters, and as usual, our standard crew of Lupin, Jigen, Goemon, Fujiko, and Zenigata are there, and they're having a fun time. And this is a classic for a good reason, and it was fun. I don't even remember when I saw it the last time. It must be like 20 years or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I'm glad I finally got to see it again, and I saw it on the big screen, so that was very, very good. I had to watch it in a German dub, but actually that was very good. That was on a actual movie dub level, so I guess there are different standards for Miyazaki production, Ghibli productions, if you want to call it that, if that is, or I don't even know who distributes that over here. Maybe it's Disney, so who knows? But yeah, definitely fun watch. The other one was Spy Family Code White.
Oh.
Which is a typical shonen jump movie, as in that it's completely inconsequential to the main story of the show. I think it's not considered canon either, but
really?
Yeah, I think it isn't. But it's entertaining. It's well animated. It's occasionally action-packed and sometimes really funny, so the mix you've come to expect and appreciate from Spy Family, the series. Especially the vacation sides and action scenes were a treat on the big screen, and there is a very acid trip-esque sequence with Anya in the back half that really profited from the big screen and movie budget, and probably was also the funniest shit in the movie and one of the funniest bits in the series overall. So yeah, if you like Spy Family, don't skip this one. It's good fun, even if it isn't like really necessarily for the series or anything, but you know, it's also not offensive in any way or stupid. I mean, the show is stupid, but you know, in a good way. So, and that isn't the same in the movie. So, it's just a fun, relaxing time, and there were a lot of laughs had in the movie theater. So, by everyone who watched it. So, good times. Yeah, I think aside from that, some of you know, listening to what reviews we have in this finale might wondering, where's Metallic Rouge? Wasn't that one of your keepers? I took a break watching that and didn't get back to it in time, so maybe I'll just throw that into the Quick and the Dead next season. You know, I wanted to put it in the Quick and the Dead this season because we didn't have that many shared reviews or shared shows we could review together, and I wanted to squeeze one single, you know, only CC only review in there, and I would have picked Undead Unluck for that anyway, because you know, you will learn why. But yeah, so it happens. I will probably watch Metallic Rouge down the road because I'm still interested in that, even though I heard the you know, the conveyance is not really there in that show. I mean, that was we both came like away from the first episodes or first couple of episodes of the show feeling that way. It was like, what is happening?
I think I got like 4 or 5 episodes in before I was like, I don't understand where this is going, because it just doesn't.
It's a bit too obtuse, apparently. But hey, I still wanted to finish it. Like, I want to check it out, but it would have been a Quick and Dead review anyway, so it's going to be maybe one in the next season. We'll see. Same for Dr. Stone season 3. I didn't get to finish that. Of course, I'm gonna watch that eventually, but I couldn't make it happen this season. So maybe I'll review it together with the 4th season whenever that comes. Who knows? But of course, I'm still gonna keep watching Dr. Stone because I love that show. So. Definitely gonna happen. But yeah, that's it for me, the Quick and the Dead. John, what do you have? Is there something?
The only thing I really have is Classroom of the Elite Season 3. I was saying to CC before we started recording, trying to summarize this show as a fool's errand, so I'm not going to. But basically, this was the end of the first year. So,
that
and
sounds big.
Yes, and you know, because in Japan, high school is 3 years, I believe, and you know, everyone in Class D managed to make the cut, and there were some big time revelations and some actually pretty neat character moments throughout. It was good. Don't know if there's more coming. Maybe. I mean, considering how long it took between seasons 1 and 2. Maybe they'll come back to start the second year, but that remains unknown for the time being. But yeah, I'd continue watching it, see what sort of absolutely ridiculous mind games the characters play against each other, because now there's things happening and other things and this thing and that thing, and oh my god, I enjoyed it. I'll watch more of it.
I mean, that's the important thing, right? Like,
yes.
So,
like it is very much a high drama show because it's high school. Of course, it's high drama.
Yes. All right, then that's it for the Quick and the Dead, living up to its name, and and we're gonna move on to our penultimate review for this season. With the conclusion of her favorite romance manga, Fuku Izumo is ready to end her life of misery and loneliness, having long accepted her fate of never being able to experience passionate love like fictional characters. Cursed with unluck, anyone Fuku touches is in grave danger of experiencing unimaginable calamity. While the possibility of imminent danger would have most sane people run in the opposite direction, Undead has other ideas. He is an immortal being with superhuman regenerative powers, desperately seeking death, which has always eluded him. When their paths finally cross, Undead sees an opportunity to finally end his suffering by using Fuku's unluck. But before Undead can unlock the full potential of Fuku's power by sweeping her off her feet to trigger the final devastating blow, the duo must first fend off a murderous secret organization hell-bent on exterminating those with special abilities. Thanks for my Animalist rewrite, as usual, for that terrific summary. So, Undead Unluck is based on a manga by Yoshifumi Tozuka, which started in 2020, currently lists 21 volumes, and is still going. The anime adaptation was produced by David Production. We have, of course, talked about them so many times on our show already, with the JoJo's and Fire Force, among other things. But it bears repeating, they're doing cool shit. Undead Unluck is no exception. The artwork in the show is really crisp and has this bright neon color palette, very close to what Fire Force delivers. Actually, there are a lot of production crossovers with Fire Force. Same director in the form of Yukiyase. The two series share one of the Adeptus script writers in the form of Yamato Haishima. Same character designer with Hideyuki Morioka. And also, of course, they share a boatload of storyboard artists and animators. The animation between action scenes is serviceable as usual, but when the action hits, boy does it hit in this one. The fights look really good. Some stunning tracking shot sequences that are on the same level as what Fire Force has to offer. Add to that the kick-ass soundtrack of Kenichiro Suihiro and the impactful bass-heavy sound design of Jin Akitagawa, who both also worked on Fire Force and Golden Kamui, among other things. And you have some riveting battles on your hands. So, yes, production values-wise, this is a really good show. It looks very cartoony in a lot of moments, very exaggerated character designs, action scenes, battle animation, and so on. And, you know, one of the main characters, Andy, is literally a zombie who constantly gets dismembered and throws his body parts around. So, you know what you're getting with this one at David Production, I guess. But yeah, let's talk about, while we're already on it, Andy, Undead, formerly, but Fuku later names him Andy because of Undeto, Andy, right? So Andy, both of them are, I gotta say it out immediately, two of my favorite anime characters in recent time. Really? I love these two so goddamn much together. They are fantastic. And let me tell you why. So the main character, and the intro summary already alluded to that, is Fuku, who wants to kill herself because, you know, everyone she touches, she has this special ability. Everyone in this universe, or not everyone in this universe, a lot of people in this universe have this. They're called the people who can do this, who can use special abilities. Special powers are called negators in this universe because they negate the rules, the normal rules of the world. And she is one of them. She has unluck, and everyone she touches is struck by a huge amount of bad luck. And, it depends if we go into the mechanics later, but a lot of them die. And of course, she actually, doesn't want to die herself, but she doesn't want to cause harm to people and can deal with the guilt of killing her parents with that power. By accident, of course, because she hugged them before they left for a flight, and then the plane exploded.
Jesus.
So, yeah, that's how the show opens. You see, it's really interesting. You have these scenes. It's a bit disorienting in the beginning because you have these scenes from her favorite romance manga that Fuko is finishing up, and you have these interspliced with the flashbacks back of her saying goodbye to her parents and the plane exploding, and you're trying to make sense of it in the beginning. What is happening? This goes on for like 2 minutes or something, and then you realize, she was reading a story and that was a memory of hers. And so that was a very interesting way of making that happen, or telling these two different story paths at the same time. Another cool thing about the first beginning moments where they intersplice the romance manga and the actual flashback to Fuku's past is like the romance manga parts are completely different. It's a completely different art style. So it's really interesting to look at and have this juxtaposed with the more cartoony style of the actual show. It works really well, like I said. And you might say, how does the romance manga matter? You have no idea. This show also brings back a lot of the stuff it sets up in the beginning, and the romance manga stuff is one of them. And of course, it also plays into the theme. She wants to have this kind of stuff. She idealizes this kind of stuff that is happening in the romance manga. She always wanted to have this kind of, experience for herself in her life, and it was denied. And she was denied that because of her powers, because she couldn't be with anyone if she didn't want to risk harming them. So it's this bittersweet thing. And when she actually finishes the last volume, she's like, okay, it's not going to get better than this for me. I at least could experience this kind of romantic life or whatever, this fulfilled life by proxy through these characters. And that's good enough for me. So now I'm going to throw myself off a building on a train track, or I don't know exactly where she's standing. But yeah, due to a twist of fate, Andy is next to her when she tries to kill herself. She didn't notice him. And then he's like, what are you doing? And tries to save her or something, and then gets immediately hit by a train, also decapitated, whatever. His head just rolls over to her. And she's like, oh God, no, what did I do? And then the head starts talking again. And he's like, wow, that was wicked cool. And then, of course, from this moment on, he is obsessed with how this shit works, because Andy, we learn about that a lot more about that in the later parts of the show, but he has been alive for a long time. So he also is kind of tired of life, but for completely different reasons than Fuko, of course, because he's just experienced so much. And, there's some other factors that play into that, right? Which I can't go into because that would be spoilers. But he says, okay, I want to find someone who can actually kill me for good, because until now, no one has achieved that. I'm immortal, basically immortal. I'm too strong, and, I just can't be killed. And so having Fuku just touching him, and then him being almost immediately killed is like, oh shit, she could actually do it. So from that moment, they're kind of stuck together. And yeah, after Andy finds out that a kiss causes the biggest amount of bad luck, which he finds out by them having to fight some members, is it flunkies, cronies, whatever, small tier guys from this organization that is hunting negators called the Union. And they have to fight these guys, and then to get out of this situation, Fuku has to unleash a huge amount of bad luck on Andy, and then Andy gets himself close to the bad guys, so they are hit by the same stroke of bad luck that hits him. And what is that a stroke of bad luck? A giant meteor falls from the sky. What? On his fucking head and on the bad guys. And of course, he survives. The bad guys don't. But the way, that big amount of bad luck hits is that Fuko actually brings herself to kissing him, even though she's very shy and very reserved and everything, and she and afraid and so on. So she's very socially awkward because, of course, she couldn't have contact with a lot of humans and everything. But something about Andy gets her to come a bit out of her shell immediately in a way, and she's actually able, because he's actually a nice guy to her and everything, to bring herself to kiss him and believe that he will survive this. And he does. And of course, Andy loves this. He's like, man, this was so great. That's one of his, at least that's how they translate it. I don't know what the Japanese word is, but he always says wicked cool or wicked or something like that. He's like, this is amazing. This is the best thing. I think he just says psycho or something.
Wicked, what is this, the 90s?
Yes. But it fits because he's got this kind of 90s metal look dude. Like he's got tattoos on his body, and he's like he looks like he jumped straight from a heavy metal album cover. So it kind of fits. Right. And it's fun. So when Andy finds out that a kiss causes the biggest amount of bad luck, he is hell-bent on taking it to the next level with Fuko, so getting biblical, which she, of course, is absolutely not into as of the moment that happens, like the first or second episode. And, it comes across that was one of the few moments in the beginning of the show where it's like, is this gonna get uncomfortable? Is this gonna be like, is he gonna horn dogging her the entire time? Is he gonna like, let's go to bed, whatever. Come on, Fuko, let's fuck. But, it could have been that, and if it would have been super predatory and everything, that would have really put me off the show. Thankfully, that doesn't happen, because the second aspect to Fuko's power is that she has to, in order to unleash a really huge amount of bad luck, she has to actually like the person. The amount of unluck rises exponentially, depending on how much she likes the person. That's why it was enough to hug her parents for her to kill them. But she's like, hey, I had this grandfather, I hugged a lot, but I didn't like him very much, so he only sprained his ankle. So this is kind of how her power works. She can still make unluck happen to other people, to people she doesn't like, but she has to touch them for a much longer time to make a big amount of unluck happen to them. And for people she likes, a kiss is enough, and, a meteor falls from the sky. So once Andy learns this, he's like, okay, then I'm just gonna make you fall for me. I'm gonna woo the shit out of you, and I'm gonna make you mine. We're gonna become a couple or whatever, and you're gonna learn to love me, whatever. And I'm gonna be the most romantic bastard you've ever seen, or whatever. So yeah, this is the most unlikely romantic comedy of the season. The wildest setup and a shonen anime, but the romance in this is really good, John. It's really fucking good. Like, it commits, which shonen series I feel like almost never do with their romance subplots. No, this actually advances that relationship between these two characters. It sometimes really focuses on that, and there's actual shit happening that advances that. In character development, like for each of them, but also together as a unit. And that's amazing. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? How is this crazy dumbass show so good at this?
Some writers get it and some just don't.
Yeah, I guess, but yeah, like it's such a rarity in shonen anime. So yeah, that is something that really took me by surprise and caught me off guard, and something that I really appreciated. Like, also one of the most fun parts of the show is what ludicrous, random, yet somewhat plausible events it comes up with that relate to Fuko's unlock power. I know we had a meteor dropping out of the sky. Then there's a truck ramming into someone out of nowhere, a train, Andy running into a building that is scheduled for demolition. For some reason, he just sits on the ground, looks up, and then there's just like this huge row of dynamite, and he's just dynamite in English. And that's so funny coming out of the voice actor's mouth. That's actually a running gag that's happening like 2, 3, or 4 times in the show. There's just a scene where Andy is opening a door or something, and then dynamite and huge explosion. It's really good. I really like the sense of humor of this show. It's really, really funny. And Andy's power set is also really interesting. Like, he can use his blood to propel himself forward, like a goddamn jetpack. When his head gets cut off, he can just propel his, like a rocket, his head wherever he wants to, but also his arms, his legs, his finger, like he has a literal finger gun that he can use. Because his severed body parts disappear after 30 seconds, and he can shoot them at people like bullets. But he can also regenerate from different body parts. So there's a lot of different ways the battles that he's involved in play out. And add to that all the unluck factor with Fuko and how they make it happen that, she can touch him at certain parts and then the unluck hits, or he can, through the way he moves and everything, get her towards close to the bad guy so she can touch the bad guy. It's a really cool tag team dynamic. And I thought the show was really creative with how it used these different power sets in the fights. And it's really cool. Andy also has a piece of shrapnel stuck in his forehead, and when he pulls it out, he remembers everything that he has learned in the nearly 200 years he has been alive, which gives him an insane power boost, but also can drive him insane, or become too dangerous. I'll get into that. But it's really, there's some really wild shit happening in the fights, especially later on. The show, gets, ups the ante several times, during the course of its runtime, and changes the status quo a lot, and how, certain things are set up and how certain powers work. So it keeps it really interesting and varied. So I like that a lot. And yeah, like I said, one of the key things that I really enjoyed about the show was the relationship between our two mains. Like, one of the first nice things Andy does for Fuko is cutting her hair, which, since nobody can touch her, has grown very long. And that makes her really happy. It's literally turning that frown upside down. It's a very cute moment in a show that is full of these cute moments. And wearing gloves actually keeps you pretty safe from Fuku's powers, since they can only activate on skin contact. And the power doesn't activate while contact still lasts, only if you let go. And then all the accumulated bad luck is unleashed. So, again, very interesting concept. And that is basically how we start the show. And then very quickly it becomes about our two main characters being hunted by this organization that I mentioned before, the Union. First by these smaller guys in the first episode, but then very quickly one of their main headliners from the Round Table are involved, and then this becomes kind of a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure thing when as it comes to the fights, because it's not immediately clear what kind of power set the bad guys have or how it works. It always starts like their power starts with but it could be several different things, like unrepair, unmove, unseen, untouchable. The show keeps it very interesting for us to find out how what that actually means, that word, and how these powers work, and then our main characters, of course, have to figure out how they can circumvent that, they can beat that with their power set. So again, very good idea to put David Production on this, because they have their experience with puzzle fighters. So this was also really interesting. And there's like immediately in the second or third episode, they have to fight like these two guys, Shen and Void from the Union. And there's this funny moment where they beat one of the guys. I'm going to spoil that, so because it happens in the first couple of episodes. They beat Void, and then the idea is, hey, now there's a vacant place at the round table, so technically one of you could become a member, and we wouldn't hunt you anymore. But there's only one open space, and Andy gives that up to Fuko, and then she is like, okay, well, if I'm not going to see you anymore, and if they're going to take me away and they're going to take you prisoner, and I'm going to give up my virginity to you so we can unleash the final stroke of bad luck and you can finally die. At least I want to do that for you, which is like this ludicrous thing to say. But it's also really nice. And Andy actually rejects it because he doesn't want to take advantage of her despair of, that she's losing him and everything. So, like I said, he is a good guy. He doesn't take advantage of her and everything. So, that also, of course, endears him all the more to her. And Shen is so impressed by all of that, and he thinks these two guys are so hilarious that he's like, hey, there is another union member at that and that place at that time. If you beat that person, there are two open seats at the round table, and you both can join. So that's the next step. And of course, they achieve that. And then from that moment on, the show changes a bit with what it's doing and what the status quo is. As I mentioned before, Andy, like I said, immortal, has also from this first or after the first moment where he beats this one guy who has a katana, he just sticks that katana into his body. He basically uses his body as a sheath. Oh. So he carries it around like sticking it into his shoulder, down his back, or up his arm. It's pretty gruesome, but also hilarious and kind of cool. Like it's not super bloody or anything, but it looks just really weird because he's like, there, I don't need any real sheath or anything. I'm just gonna use my body for this. And he's also smarter than you think. He comes across kind of brash and everything, and, a bit of a pig-headed guy and everything. But actually, he has lived for a long time, and he has done a lot of things and experienced a lot of things. So he actually has learned a lot of stuff. And he's good about figuring things out, like the intricacies of how Fuku's powers can be used somewhat reliably in different battle situations, for example. He comes up with a lot of that, which in turn shows her that her powers are not pure chaos and that she can be a reliable partner to him, which is nice. Or what the exact powers of his opponents are and how to counter them. Like I said, the puzzle fighter setup that also works in JoJo and everything. So he's really good at that. And while he seems very selfish in the beginning because he only wants Fuku's powers so he can die, he actually puts the work in to give her a good time. He takes her to countries she's never been, shows her how to party, a bunch of food she's never tried, gives her a bunch of food she's never tried. He's naturally good at bringing Fuku out of her shell, and Fuku really appreciates it. Like, she was so afraid to hurt someone, she never really was able to probably live her life until now, and especially not enjoy living it. With Andy, she gets to actually do this, all while being put in incredible danger most of the time, but that's besides the point. So
it's fine, don't worry about it.
It's part of the experience. She's screaming a lot, in the beginning anyway. She gets a bit more gutsy later on when she gets used to the battles, but in the beginning there's a lot of yelling by Fuku because she, of course, doesn't know how to handle this. Andy has it figured out and everything, but it's in the beginning it's a bit wild for her. And Fuku has dabbled in art during her 10-year shut-in period and is actually good at drawing, which later comes back as well as an important plot point, believe it or not. And again, Andy keeps on using his powers in creative ways in the battles. For example, when they fight Gina, who is this other union member that they need to beat to get the second seat at the table. She uses these invisible attacks, and Andy puts a grenade in his mouth, cuts off his head, propels his head high in the air, regenerates his body in the air from his head down, and then blows it up via the grenade to cover a wide area with his blood, and that way makes Gina's attacks visible. It's ridiculous, of course, but it's a really unique way of fighting and has the figure out how the enemy's powers work and how to counter them aspect to it. Like I said, that make JoJo's battles so fun. And of course, it becomes even more interesting throwing Fuko into the mix. And of course, because his clothes usually don't survive the first couple of seconds of a fight anyway, Andy fights mostly naked, at least in the beginning. And there's a lot of, dick jokes in the show as well. But, and since to activate Fuku's powers, he has to touch her bare skin, she's also often showing flesh. This is an edgy show in a way. I mean, there's no big amounts of tits thrown around everything, but it's slightly raunchy. But it's mostly played for laughs on both sides. And, since there's a lot of agency to Fuko down the road, there's nothing like, oh no, this feels bad and she's only being used and everything. And he has to pull her in. And so, they have body contact and then he can unleash the unlock. But, she makes a lot of that happen herself. So that's really, really interesting and cool. And at least Andy's situation is eased up on a bit after Yuma, which are these monsters in this world, which who also have special powers and embody kind of like some of the special rules this world exhibits. One of these Yumas attaches himself to Andy, and this Yuma can generate clothes in an instant. So that's very handy. And Andy doesn't have to be naked all the time anymore. Of course, Fuko names that Yuma Clothy, which, yes, of course, that's great. You do that, Fuko. But yeah, given the avalanche of nonsense thrown at our female main character, she remains someone who is refreshingly capable and willing to adapt to a new situation. Like I said, there's a lot of yelling in the beginning, but she is neither just a damsel nor overly possessive of Andy or anything. There's this hilarious scene where they try to find a Yuma who turns people into zombies. And one of the zombies tells them in zombie language, of course, just moaning. And I don't know who understands her, but one of them does. And I think Andy does. And that she will spill the Yuma's location if Andy marries her. Andy is game and asks Fuku for permission, which is nice. Because, he considers both of them, like he considers him and Fuku a couple at this point. He takes her feelings more and more into consideration than expected from this fresh character type. So it's really nice to see that. And the show does that a lot, where it's like, no, Andy actually cares for Fuku's opinion. He cares for not hurting her. He cares to be cares about being considerate towards her. All very unusual things in shonen anime. Now, in a lot of those other shows with this kind of dynamic, you would expect some tsundere antics from Fuko here. What? No, really? Yeah, marry her if you want. But she just bursts into a hearty laugh and says he should go for it because she knows it's not serious and for the sake of the mission. And that's super neat. It's so refreshingly uncomplicated, the relationship between these two, because they might not say it out loud in the beginning or, anything, but these really, especially Fuko, falls very quickly for Andy. It happens very quickly. She doesn't say it, but it's obvious. And through Andy's actions, you realize that is the same for him, and he really deeply cares for her. And it's like, yeah, come hell or high water, these two really belong together, and they show it to each other in several different ways. So this kind of little thing is nothing that throws Fuku off her game and everything. So it's really cool to see that. They're just great together, and I love being surprised by them going against tropes in this show. And Fuku is so gosh darn adorable. The way she secretly fawns over Andy, and she's, like I said, incredibly capable too. Great character. Things get slightly more complicated once, especially like at the halfway point of the show. Andy has to fully unleash his alternative ego, which is Victor, or Victor. I think they just pronounce it Victor, but it's written Vic-Thor. And once he does that, he becomes kind of a completely different person and very unhinged. He, he has different memories and is completely overpowered. And Victor's memories don't match Andy's. Like, he doesn't remember the stuff that Andy did, and Andy doesn't remember the stuff that Victor did. And Victor can regenerate himself from every body part he wants. He can make clones of himself and much more. Worst of all, he doesn't give a shit about Fuko and would rather kill her to not let Andy take control again. Mm-hmm. And it takes the full force of, the round table to rein him back in. And that is also a really cool fight. And, it mixes things up a bit and makes it a bit dangerous, because in certain situations you might need Victor's power, but Victor is complicated and dangerous. So, they really have to gauge the situation, or really have to judge the situation and decide, okay, is this the best moment to unleash Victor, or should we just try to win this fight ourselves, because who knows what he might do. So, yeah, really cool. One last thing about Andy that's really nice. You will be surprised by what kind of jobs Andy already has dabbled in during his immortal life. Like, dude wasn't slacking. It's ridiculous. Like, there's so much stuff where it's like, yeah, I did that for a while. Yeah, I did that for a while. And that's, how they kind of can explain him being a jack of all trades and being able, knowing a lot of shit, being able to do a lot of shit. So yeah, it's really fun. Like I said, these two main characters are fan-fucking-tastic. But they're not the only cool characters in the show, and in general, the show has a lot more stuff to offer. Like I said, the world is really interesting. We have all these different people with different powers who are called the Negators. And one example of that is one of the first enemies to fight has the power Unavoidable, so you'll always get hit by him because he can stop your movement to an extent. And a lot of the characters from the Union, of course, also have crazy powers, and we don't immediately know what these powers are, and I won't tell you because that is a lot of the fun, to figure out what the actual power sets of the characters in the show are, and how these powers work, and how to beat them and everything. So I won't get into that much, but yes, they become part of that. And actually, Andy was captured by the Union and experimented on for 10 years until he escaped. Weirdly enough, he doesn't seem to have that much of a grudge against them. I mean, he is willing to kill them, but he's not super emo or aggro about it. He's more like, shucks, oh, you guys, bang. And that's also a fun part. He's very laid back about the whole thing when they meet the Union again, in a way. He tries, he's like, he does one try. It's like, man, maybe I can immediately get rid of one of them just because they annoy me and everything. But that doesn't work out, of course. But Gina is one of the interesting ones, like I mentioned, with her invisible attacks. She's also really interesting because she is the one who kidnapped Andy, and she also kind of fell in love with him, and so their fight is really interesting. But yeah, once our two main characters become part of the Union, the world is opened up, and we learn why the Union actually exists, why they hunt negators, what all of this actually, what the entire show is actually about. That becomes evident at that moment, because the roundtable members of the Union regularly receive new quests by a talking book called Apocalypse, which apparently is the first artifact found on Earth. Artifacts are like these special artifacts that have like special meaning or powers or whatever, and this is the first one that was found. And accomplishing these quests gains the Union rewards. For example, being able to add an 11th member to the round table. That would be one of the benefits, or implementing certain rules, or being able to get certain information or whatever. But failing to completing all quests in a certain time window determined by the book will add a penalty to the world. What exactly these penalties are is not immediately clear, but the Union wants to use the system to amass as much power as possible to eventually break the system and its creator. And since this system was already used 98 times in the past to add rules like language and race and gender and so on, but also negative ones like sickness and death to the Earth, so cornerstones of human existence really, They're basically talking about killing God and negating the rules he imposed on the world. That's some Shin Megami Tensei shit. So, good stuff.
Yes, we're on the JRPG stuff now. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a very gamey show in that regard. Very gamified concept. And I could see this work really well as an RPG, as an action RPG. So I wonder, I must assume there is a game adaptation of this at some point, or will be. But I don't know. They don't always make the best use of the concepts that the shows offer. So I don't know if there will be anything that really does something interesting with that outside of, hey, here's Apocalypse, he's giving you quests. So we'll see. But, it felt really video gamey, but in an interesting way. For example, there are apparently no stars in this world, only the sun and the moon, which we learn when Fuko adds them to a painting of hers because she feels otherwise the moon in the night sky feels so lonely. And then later, after they fail to accomplish one of the quests in the time window, the Yuma, which is are the monsters, but also rules. And it's short for unidentified mysterious animal. Okay. But one of them gets applied as a penalty to the world, and that Yuma is called, I think, Universe. So suddenly, the Earth is not alone in the universe anymore. And all the other planets exist. And the logical result from that is now there are aliens who are invading the Earth, and the Union has to fight them off. That is the penalty, right? Because now you have to deal with this shit. And it's, there's a lot of crazy nonsense happening in the show in that regard. But also, like I said, it keeps it really fresh and interesting. No, the Yuma was called Galaxy, right? So it's really cool. And I really like the stuff that the author came up with that is like, comes kind of out of nowhere. But in the weird framework of the show also kind of makes sense. And it always, delivered something in every other episode was like, oh, I've never seen this before in an anime in a way. But this is implemented really interesting and uses some of the shonen tropes, but also sometimes subverts them in an interesting way. So yeah, really refreshing in a lot of ways. That's what I would call the show, definitely. Fuko also wants to end the system because she thinks too much people suffer because of it, but does not agree with the union's methods. Their current leader, Juice, says in response to that, all Fuko has to do to change things is to become first seed, so complete a lot of quests. And again, this would also lend itself to really well to a real video game, where you have to actually rise through the ranks and then being able, once you're top seed, to change how, your organization works and everything. So, cool idea. Another interesting quest rewards that they get later on is unifying all the world's languages. So after completing it, everyone in the world speaks English. And other languages don't exist anymore. Which technically makes it easier to communicate across different countries. But negators aren't affected by this. Shen, one of the round table members we meet in the very beginning, is a Chinese native. And since these rules, these rewards don't apply to negators, he still speaks Chinese, while all the other people in the world suddenly speak English. So, he can't communicate that well anymore. So he has to use the translation device and some of the other characters too, because they all still speak their native languages and everything. And, that also makes it tougher for some negators who want to stay hidden in the world to now do that, because now they're the only ones who speak another language that nobody understands anymore. And that is, so they're literally fucked and stand out a lot. And the show does some really interesting bits with that. It's a bit wonky, since technically now everyone is speaking English, but also this is an anime, so of course all the voice actors are mostly speaking Japanese. So when there's a negator character introduced who is only speaking Japanese, they have to do some jumping through hoops to properly convey the language barrier. It mostly succeeds, but you still have to do some mental gymnastics to keep up the immersion. like among the Union characters, this isn't really an issue because I think everyone gets equipped with some of kind of universal translator gizmo, so they can understand each other, even though some of them might not be able to speak the same language. But, once they come across other characters, it's just like, oh, these characters actually don't speak the same language anymore. So even though they all speak Japanese. So it's a bit, it's a bit wonky, but it's still fun.
I was thinking, why not go with Tekken rules where, everyone talks their language and they can understand each other. Don't ask questions. Shut up.
Yes, maybe they didn't want to shill out for voice actors who could speak other languages and so on. Who knows? Who could actually speak a lot of Chinese.
Still,
Yes, I would have preferred that too.
The same way.
Like, it would have been super fun if suddenly, all the characters that were just speaking Japanese before, now all of them, outside of the negator, suddenly speak English. And it would be great, like, if, in the dub version, like in the US dub, or maybe in the German dub or whatever, they actually make use of that and have, only certain characters suddenly speak that main language and everyone else maybe speaks still Japanese or still whatever. So that would be interesting. Like, maybe add a mixed dub option or something like that.
Where I wonder how they would figure that out.
Yes. It would be tough, but it would be a lot of fun, especially in regards to how the show works that into the story. So, but yeah, like I said, it's not perfectly implemented, but it's an interesting concept, and the show actually does some really interesting things with that. So, I am glad they put that in. So the end game for this is there's a stone tablet with slots for 101 penalties. The final one is called Ragnarok, so that will probably be the unavoidable end of the world. And they're now at 898, so they can't afford any more penalties. I wonder why they are not more confident, though, considering, how easily Juice deals with one of the penalties. Maybe Ragnarok is a chump. You don't know. But I get it. I wouldn't want to risk it either. So they're very intent on not making mistakes anymore at a certain point. So it's interesting. And touching certain artifacts gives you also a vision of the future, which also makes it gives you some interesting glimpses into foreshadowing here. What is actually going to happen with that Ragnarok shit, and who is the god in this world? So yeah. There's also later this others organization introduced, which is called Under, which is trying to become the rulers of the world before Ragnarok / God arrives, because they don't think anyone can beat that thing and don't want to be the ones suffering until then, because negators are mostly abused, used in this world, used as tools, sold in auctions and stuff like that. So they want to change all that, and they want to basically become the kings of the world. And then when God arrives and the whole world dies, well, then that's how it is. But until then, they want to live the good life. So that's they, of course, then clash with the Union because, their missions sometimes overlap and everything. And, of course, that leads to a lot of interesting battles with a lot of different powers clashing and so on. And like I said, the battles look really, really good. So it's cool. The only point of real critique so far, is that the further the series progresses, the more flashbacks you get. Multiple ones in the same episode that often flash back to stuff that happened in the same episode. No idea if they were running out of manga chapters. I don't think so, because the manga is still way ahead. Maybe they felt this was really necessary. Maybe because a fight was coming up and they wanted to push that to the next episode for the better animation team to handle it. No idea what the actual reason is, but this often felt like a bit of One Piece stalling. So that was one of the things that stuck out to me later. It doesn't break the show or anything, like it doesn't ruin it. But it was definitely noticeable at a certain point. And I was like, I wish, get on with it. So, but yeah, aside from that, there are a lot of twists and turns and surprises in this. And I was surprised by how much of the stuff that felt random at first glance actually gets explained down the road. There are some knowledge bombs dropped in episode 18 and 19 that shed light on stuff that was introduced as a side bit in episode 1. Like, the creator of the manga is definitely playing the long game with some of the lore and plot developments, and the show becomes very meta by the end, in a very fun way. And I also, of course, enjoyed that kind of shit. And, of course, I was surprised, like I said, by how much I was dialed into the romance subplot, which also becomes very important for specific reasons down the road. Not only because it's fun and because the characters are fun together, but also story relevant. And, you can't not love these characters. They're just so good. And yeah, slightly pervy beginnings aside, the love story between Andy and Fuko is so sweet and cute, and I'm really glad the series actually commits to it, both by having the two say out loud at a certain point that they like/love each other, and showing actual earnest physical acts of affection multiple times on screen, which is also rare.
They're allowed to say it?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Crazy.
Scandal.
I feel this is a rare thing for shonen anime especially, and that's why it's all the more welcome here. There's so many moments where it was just, oh, this is so nice and so cute and such good vibes, and I'm so happy for them, and they deserve this. I'm so glad. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. They belong to each together, and I hope they have a happy ending and everything. And one of my favorite moments was when they go on their first undercover mission, and Andy is like, "Are you ready, my honey?" And Fuku's like, "Yes, my darling." I love these.
To see that some shonen writers get it.
Yes, I love these two goofballs so much, and I love that they're written this way. And it's really fun. It's a fantastic show. The first season of the anime covers 53 chapters of the manga. 209 have been released, so the anime covers about 1/4. So I hope we get at least 3 more seasons soon. The problem is, you can watch it on Disney Plus, the streaming service where anime go to die. So I don't know if this is gonna get any more seasons. I really hope so, because, man, this was the most fun I had with the shonen action show in a long time. Like, great battles, super endearing main characters, a romance that, despite its ludicrous setup, makes sense and is pulled off really well. And the show actually commits to it, which is so rare in shonen anime. And good lord, it was such a breeze of fresh air, I tell you. It really is a shoujo story masquerading as a shonen manga. Considering the way the show opens, I should have expected that, but I was still caught off guard in a very good way. And then add to that some great plot twists and turns and very brisk pacing and amazing battles, and I can almost guarantee you that you will have a great time with this one. So please check it out, so I don't have to send a big amount of misfortune your way. You have been warned.
So, guess going from one journey of immortality to what is on its face another journey of immortality?
Among other things, yes.
Yeah.
Your self-reflection and, self-actualization as well, and, evolving as a character.
Oh, yes, but purely on the concept that our main character may or may not be ageless, or at least ages very, very slowly.
Very slowly, like really, really slowly. It's, the show never makes a definitive statement about how long her lifespan actually is, but you can imagine it being, could go into like 50,000 years or something, maybe?
I mean, well, we know up to this point it's been at least several hundred years, at least.
No, it's been several thousand years, John.
Did they say that?
Yes, it's been, like, when they talk about her master, they say that was 1,000 years ago, and she is already, like, a preteen at that moment. So she, you have to add all that time she was still growing up before she got to her master. And, so, it's,
I couldn't remember the exact span of time when she was with Flame. So
yeah.
But yes, we're talking about Soso no Frieren, or Frieren Beyond Journey's End, depending on which name you decide to go with. During their decade-long quest to defeat the Demon King, the members of the hero's party, Himmel himself, the priest Heiter, the dwarf warrior Eisen, and the elven mage Frieren, forged bonds through adventures and battles, creating unforgettable, precious memories for most of them. However, the time that Frieren spends with her comrades is equivalent to merely a fraction of her life. Boy, that's an understatement of the ever MAL rewrite, which has lasted over 1,000 years. There we go. When the party disbands after their victory, Frieren casually returns to her usual routine of collecting spells across the continent. Due to her different sense of time, she seemingly holds no strong feelings toward the experiences she went through. As the years pass, Frieren gradually realizes how her days in the Heroes Party truly impacted her. Witnessing the deaths of two of her former companions, Frieren begins to regret having taken their presence for granted. She vows to better understand humans and create real personal connections. Although the story of that once memorable journey is long ended, a new tale is about to begin. So, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, brought to you by our good friends at Madhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, although looking at the credits list, they do what they did, and they called in 1 billion favors because, boy, this show looked amazing from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, it's the best thing I've seen from Madhouse since One Punch Man, I think. I don't even remember what other shows they did in between, but this definitely feels like one of those favor shows right from the get-go. It's like, what are these production values? Why does this look so goddamn good?
Someone... I'll get back to the staff in a second, but I'm trying to look at the history of the shows that they worked on between One Punch Man and now. And there were a few things actually, but someone on the staff must have been like, "This is the one that we want to just knock out of the park."
Yeah, they chose that one to be the one.
Yeah, I mean, they did a few other good-looking shows in between then. Like, I didn't watch Prince of Stride all the way through, but I remember it being, having some pretty good-looking moments, as well as Akka, and you watched Sunny Boy.
Oh, right. Yes, that was a Shingo Natsume show as well, right? I think so. Yes, that was a looking show, but a very different style. Like, was had very experimental artwork in a lot of moments, very loose. I would say, like, I mean, in some battles, this also has a bit more loose animation, but outside of that, everything looks pretty crisp. I mean, some of the backgrounds have like a bit of a watercolor feel and everything to make this feel more fairy tale-ish, more fantasy styled. But it's still very crisp. It's very, very clear artwork. I feel like there's not that much big experimentation happening with the visuals. It's very precise artwork. It's done very well and never off model in any possible way.
No.
It's like even the littlest moment looks so goddamn good in this show, and like you have this delicate this moments of delicate body movement and everything where they really put the focus on that. And I was amazed how high quality this was from beginning to end. I never got the feeling that it dipped at any moment in any episode. It's like, this was so high level from beginning to end. And this is not like a one core show. This is like 28 episodes. And it looks so good from beginning to end. It
was such a good choice of them to drop 4 episodes at once.
Yes, to get you hooked immediately.
Because let's not bury the lead. The show is great. But it's kind of a slow burn at first, and I don't think if they dropped, all those episodes at once, I would have been like, yes, I'm going to watch this. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. I mean, I feel like some of the good emotional hooks already happened in the first episode, like when we, come across or when we get introduced to the characters, and then we see the burial of Himmel and everything. We see Frieren's reaction to it and everything. The soundtrack swelling up in the moment where they watch the meteor shower.
Yeah.
Where the strings and the sweeping orchestra goes all out and everything. And immediately then you're captivated by the production values. But, once you actually get in the coming following 3 episodes what the story is going to be from that moment on, then it firmly has its hooks in you. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It was a good idea to give us immediately 4 episodes so that we can realize, oh, this is about a new journey for these characters, and this is the structure of the show and everything. And wouldn't have necessarily been completely evident from the first episode alone.
Yeah, the music is excellent all the way through. It's done by Evan Call, who's done some of the other shows that we've talked about or watched, like Symphogear G, Violet Evergarden, one of your favorites, Big Order.
Oh, God.
But he's done a lot of great work, so, and that's very apparent throughout this show. The manga the show is based on is created by Kanehito Yamada, who did like the writing and the story, and Tsukasa Abe, who did the art. And it didn't really look too much at the manga itself, so I'm not sure how it translates to this show, but I'm not sure if you did.
No. I didn't. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to spoil myself.
Fair. It was directed by Keiichi Sato, who we have spoken about before. Did a little bit of work on Aka, a little bit of work on Sunny Boy, speaking of. Directed Bocchi the Rock. That's a wild experience and also a great show for different reasons.
Well animated as far as I've heard.
Yes. That's a show that's not afraid to go a little off the rails in the animation department.
Yeah.
And speaking of One Punch Man, this show was written by Tomohiro Suzuki, who did that, and a bit of Lupin the Third Part 4, and some other stuff here and there too. So the pedigree of this show is very apparent on its face. So, and I'm glad that like very, very strongly comes through. There's a lot to say about the show. There's so many characters to go through. Oh my God. So I guess we could start with the main character herself. Frieren is this many centuries old elf.
Millennia.
Well, is it more than one millennia?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, look, she is. It's been it's been 1,000 years since she was with Flamme, and she hasn't aged that much since then. So I can't, like, if she's like 10 in our years when she meets Flamme, which might be the case, maybe a bit older, I must imagine that it was like at least another millennia before she met Flamme, or even 2. So she might be 3,000 years old at this point.
That's possible, but I'm willing to hedge my bets and say at least 1.
Yes, definitely 1.
It's not clear. Give me some guidance. Give me a solid number.
I mean, we might get that eventually, but maybe also not. Also, it kind of doesn't matter in a way where it's like, hey, it doesn't matter how old exactly she is. It just matters that time passes very differently for her when compared to other characters, and she has very different. That results in her seeing the way and treating her life in a very different way. Like, there's so many moments where that comes through. Of course, what you mentioned in the beginning, the journey with her comrade, she always says like, hey, it was just a mere 10-year-long journey, a 10-year-long adventure. And everyone is like, what do you mean mere? What do you mean just 10 years? Right? You know, and she's like, yeah, for her, that's a blink of an eye thing. Like, it began and it's over. But you also see that in a lot of other ways, like that she just has more time. She goes everywhere, of course, by foot and everything, and goes very long stretches by foot because, you know, it doesn't matter if it takes her like half a year to get somewhere because she has so much time on her hands. So she can walk these long distances without problem, without losing much time. And she likes to sleep in.
Yes.
And relate. The hashtag relatable. Very much so. She has trouble getting out of bed because she doesn't have to, right? She, you know, in her life, because before she meets some of the other characters, she's like, yeah, I can just get up whenever because it's not like I'm missing anything because I have so much damn time on my hand. You know?
Some of the some other characters later on make it a point to be like, we need to get a move on. We can't stay in this town because if Frieren gets comfortable, we will be here for months, if not years.
Yes. And I mean, she later on tries to take the other characters' feelings into consideration and, straightens herself up a bit and tries to hurry up in certain moments. But also, she's a person of habit. And some stuff just needs to be done when you get to a town. Like, look for a couple of new spells. Get to that weird, dingy magic shop with this weird magic shop owner who is very suspicious. And these are the best ones because they have the best hidden spells. So of course she needs to go there because she loves to collect spells because it's the most fun thing to her about magic. She loves doing that. She loves to find these weird, kind of on the surface nonsensical spells. And then just collects them. That's her thing, and of course that takes also a lot of time. And she's willing to put the time into that. The problem is later on, when she travels with characters, mostly with humans who don't have such a long lifespan, she needs to take that into consideration, and needs to accept that they want to move through this quicker, and she can't just linger in a certain moment in a certain place for too long. Otherwise, she might make them unhappy, and she also doesn't want to do that. So it's definitely she definitely needs to adapt, and I think she does in certain ways. But sometimes it's hard. It's hard.
It takes her a minute to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, I am got to imagine, because we don't really see it, that during the initial before the journey's end, that Himmel and the others were probably able to keep her moving a little better.
Yes, I mean, there is a reason all of this is set up, or she goes on her second journey and everything. There is this clear quasi-romantic thing going on with Himmel, right? Where it's like, yes, she says that herself, like elves live a long time but lack romantic feelings and reproductive instincts, so there are not many of them around anymore. This is one of the facts of the world. Like, we meet very few elves in this show. So, and she herself has, a somewhat cold demeanor. That name, that makes sense. Was Kojima writer on this? But... Yes, we'll get to that. And yes, so she treats a lot of this from the outside when you don't know her that well. She seems like very matter-of-factly, even the character deaths and so on. That's for her like, they have limited lifespan. She only comes to only the real realization how much a person with a short lifespan can actually mean to her. When Himmel dies, and she's at his grave, and it's like, fuck, I have so much time in my life. I should have spent that little time that he has with him to get to know him better, because he was important to me. And I wasted that time going around just searching for spells, stuff that I always do. Well, I could have spent more time with people that actually I grew fond of, and that I had a good time with, and that brought something valuable to my life. And that is like
the journey. She disappears for, what was it, like 50 years?
Yeah, 50 years, yeah. And, when she returns, Himmel is just like this really, really small old man. And it's not, and she treats that, again, matter-of-factly, right? And it only really, really understands how that actually affects her once Himmel dies. And then she makes a decision. And from that moment on, she actually tries to learn more about the humans she meets during her travels, has talks with them, a lot of conversations, and, helps them out and everything. And, of course, her new companions also add to that and everything, and her trying to adapt and trying to learn more about them and trying to accommodate them. It's just, who says that? I think Heiter. Like, that he says Frieren is very bad with people or with emotions or understanding this. She tries to. You will see when you spend time with her. You will understand that she actually tries to do that. She's just not good at that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a learning process. But she definitely makes the effort, and I feel like Himmel is one of the main reasons why she is doing that. Not because only he died, but also we get more and more glimpses of that in her second journey later on. We always get the flashbacks, right? When she, on her second journey with her new companions, she visits places she has been before with her old, party. We always see bits and pieces of what she did on her first journey there, the experience she had with her old crew. And you quickly realize a lot of what Himmel did is making her feel welcome at home and giving her a feeling that what she is doing is important to him, and commending her for the silly spells she is collecting, and saying, hey, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen and stuff like that, right? And that is important to her because this is what she's doing is important to her. And then if here now is this person who apparently this also means something to for one reason or another, only if it's because she is the one who's collecting these spells and showing them off. So a lot of that what she's doing now in the second journey and everything, and why she is going on the second one, why she is spending more time with people and everything, is because of Himmel and of course the other characters from her party. So yes. I don't know what your initial point was and my point was, but that is the hook for this. And this is I think her main drive after this particular moment, and her main drive for going on a second journey, right? Like going to the place they were before where they beat the Demon King, and actually going to a place called Heaven, so maybe she can talk to Himmel again, or I don't know what the actual end game is here for her. I don't know if they outright state that in the show. I know she just wants to go there. Do they ever say what she plans to do when they get there? Does she just want to talk to him one more time? Or what was the plan? I don't remember.
I feel like it was that she wanted to speak with him one more time. It didn't, you're right, it wasn't plainly apparent, but...
Yeah, I mean... That's also enticing, where it's like, okay, so we still have a big question mark of what's going to happen at the end of the show. Maybe is she going to just stay there, right, in heaven herself, and be like, okay, I'm going to stay with my old friends or whatever? Or what is she actually going to do? Or is she just going to say thank you to Himmel for changing her life or whatever? So let's see.
Well, I mean, the manga is still running, so there's plenty. I believe we got about halfway through the current material, and it's still ongoing. So there's plenty to figure out.
Yeah, it's not like I would say the show is definitely not the fastest one, despite Frieren having to hurry up certain things. It's still a very relaxed pace. There's some moments where it moves a bit faster. Like in the beginning, it moves very fast, just in terms of how much time is covered, right? Like we said, we get these this little montage that happens over the course of 50 years before she returns to her old friends, and then there's the burial of Himmel and everything, and then she goes on her new journey. But after she meets Fern and Stark, like the time slows down very abruptly, and we spent most of the show 20 years /28/29 years after Himmel's death. I think that's where most of the show, at least in this season, happens. It's 1 year, right? So
I kind of feel like it works to get to the story that they're trying to tell, to sort of speed past that initial part.
Absolutely,
and then that gives you an opportunity to tell that story later on if you want. But the thing is about that, I just said that and I was like, well, wait, we kind of got breadcrumbed pieces of that story as we went along. So it's not entirely necessary to even go back and tell it in full, I feel like.
No, not really. I mean, that's not the absolute important part. The important part is the second journey she's taking right now, the way she approaches her life different now, how she interacts with her new comrades, and then the flashbacks that are these key moments that already the seeds that were sown by her old team members her old party members for these changes that are happening now, like seeing, okay, this is what happened here, and that's why she's acting now on her second way through this journey, the way she's doing right now. So these are the important moments. Everything that happens before that or eventually after that is not really that important. I mean, we get also some flashbacks to her time with Flamme, right? Because these are relevant to some of her motivation, why she likes magic so much and why she likes to collect spells so much, the stuff with the flower spell and everything. We have a nice full circle moment at the end that also relates to all of that at the end of this first season, and how Himmel himself plays into that as well. So, yes, these flashbacks are also important, but everything else outside of what she experienced with her party is in her life is not that important. So
I really kind of like that. Oh, I'm going around collecting spells. Oh, so you mean like these big bang, boom, zim, zap spells? It's like, no, just, little weirdo spells that don't honestly have too much utility, but I think are pretty neat. And I'm like, I love that. I think that's amazing.
And it's not like only like spells. I mean, that's her main thing. Like, she's always on the look for grimoires, like that contain, ancient spells that nobody knows about, right? And she's always really excited when she senses, when she smells there might be a grimoire somewhere here. Oh, in this dungeon, this could be like there's this moment in the back of the show where they have to get pass a test. They have to go through this, get to the end of this dungeon, and she's with like two other characters, and then she is like, oh no, this is the main route. Let's go back.
You have to fill in the map, dude.
Yeah, she's me in a fucking RPG. It's like, there could be a treasure that way down there. I wasn't there before, and this is obviously the main road, so I'm not gonna go there because I'm gonna miss a fucking potion or some bullshit. So that's her. Like, she's collecting so much stuff that to all the other people in the show seems like worthless junk, but she's so happy, like just rummaging through that shit that she gets out of one of those treasure chests or whatever. And, if she wouldn't always get stuck in fucking mimics, it wouldn't...
Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem.
It's a bit of a problem, yes.
I saw a figure you can buy that is Frieren hanging out of the mouth of a mimic. You can purchase that.
Yes, of course. It's one of the running gags in the show. Like,
it's so good.
Like when everyone was, she's like this super powerful mage, and everyone was like, "Oh shit!" And then she gets stuck in a mimic, and I was like, "Wait, what? Is this a joke? Like, is she maybe just an idiot?"
It's just one of those things where the character's like, it's like, not again.
Yeah. I mean, Fern is very fan. At a moment or at a point, she's like, "I'm just so used to this. Whatever, this again."
How did you get out of it before? Well,
yeah. Well, there's several ways you can do this. You can some might more be effective than others, but then have repercussions maybe on your hair. So that's you have to really think what you want to do. Do you want to be barfed out, or do you want to explode yourself out of a mimic?
The hair can be fixed.
Yeah. Well, it's a matter of importance. Sometimes,
priorities, I guess.
Priorities, yes. But it's always it's just such a funny running gag because the show does a really good job of making sure you understand how goddamn powerful Frieren is. Like, we get very early on. We get the name drop of Flamme, who is like the founder of human magic and everything. And then we quickly learn that Frieren was actually her student, and she, which is why she can easily identify a lot of the tomes attributed to Flamme as a fake. And yeah, that she has learned all about magic from her, and she's super powerful and everything. And there are these moments later on, like, the show is mostly the way it's structured is slice of lifey, at least for quite a while, right? They go to a town, you have some flashbacks to what happened. They also just do some side quests and so on. There are not that many battles in the beginning. That gets they happen later on, that they look really good. And having Frieren being so incredibly overpowered is fun, but also I feel like they could make it a bit less obvious at times. Like there's this fight against a couple of demons later in the show, and it's very obvious the ways one of the powers of the demons works, that they can't beat Frieren because it relies heavily on the demon's mana level being higher than Frieren's, and we immediately know that cannot be the case. Like,
yeah,
she's so fucking old. She's the student of this god-tier mage who lived 1,000 years ago. No fucking way your mana is higher than hers. Oh, but it looks like it is. Yeah, but what the fuck? Whatever.
But there's a chance. No.
Yeah, right. And, we know this, or at least we can assume that's the case. So as soon as we get the explanation to how that demon's power scale works, it sucks a bit of the tension out of the confrontation. It's not a JoJo's puzzle where we have to guess how will Frieren's experience help her overcome this. It's just, she's got more juice.
See, it just turns into a real, I'd win.
Yeah, exactly. and that, at least in concept, is a bit lame. It is, however, fun how they weave the fact that demons underestimate her into the world building. And, Frieren has done certain things in her life, and she's that have made her adept at doing certain things with her mana and everything. And, she can suppress it. And that is something that is unthinkable to demons, for demons, because that magic power, mana level, whatever, is their status in their society. And, their status in their society is solely derived from the amount of mana they openly display. Suppressing it constantly would mean debasing themselves. So, of course, they're caught off guard by Frieren, who can do this. And, when the one demon that Frieren fights makes realize the giant mistake, and how Frieren actually delivers the finishing blow. It's not this super big Sakuga moment, but it's very effective, and the soundtrack also does some really good work here. Mm-hmm. But I think the scene could have even been better if this was more of a twist than the series thinks it is, because we knew that Frieren is ridiculously powerful. They didn't play coy with that, so I don't know. That reveal could have been even cooler in my eyes, but it's still pretty neat. And, the actual excitement is delivered by Fern and Stark, who fight the other two characters in a really cool Sakuga fight. And it's really great to look at, and a lot of great sound work, and everything's really exciting. And I didn't expect the show to have that, because it felt very low-key and, like I said, slice of lifey in the beginning. And then we have some cool training, battles between Fern and Frieren, and then we have they need to extinguish this demon called Qual, and which is also really cool and also interesting in terms of world building and how that works. Because he was banished, or he's
like sealed away because they
sealed
couldn't
away for
defeat him.
Yes, for a long time, right? And in the meantime, humanity has caught up, and his deadly spell that he had before has been completely upended. Yeah. And, he's like, oh, what the fuck? And that's really interesting.
I'll use my most deadly spell. We took it and made it a lot better.
Yes,
Sorry.
Exactly. Also, we have super powerful defense magic that has no problem dealing with that now. And it's really interesting because, the way I just loved how the show deals with time and time progression, and how it works different for different people in the show. Not only Frieren and the humans, but also other elves, Eisen the dwarf, and who is not quite, doesn't have quite as long as a lifespan as Frieren, but, longer than humans, and then the demons and everything, and, Qual, who was sealed away and stuff. So there's a lot of different aspects to this, and how things changed over time. Memories, how people remember the band of heroes that Frieren was part of, remember her. Some people don't. Some people think her of a myth, which is weird. She is kind of like the boogeyman in demon lore, right? Like Frieren the demon slayer.
True.
So you would think that immediately when they run across the demons, they would see her and be like, oh fuck, right? They would dust off, blast off with the speed of light like Team Rocket. They would just fucking get out of there because they know they have no chance dealing with her. I would assume the way this is portrayed, like later on and explained, that they would be taught in demon school or whatever, or with demon children books. If you ever come across this elf, run. Like, take your belongings and run. And they don't. So I don't know what that says about them, if demons are kind of stupid or if they don't really educate themselves properly. But it was funny to hear that she is actually kind of like this boogeyman character in their lore or whatever, their legends. And then it's like, no, I mean, they gotta know that elves live this long and that it could be her, like if she looks exactly the same. So it was weird, but it was also really funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe because she is purported to be a legend.
Yeah, maybe. It's like, she can't be here. Like, this is not important to her. She must be somewhere, I don't know, studying magic. Why would she be in this town, in this unimportant town, right? Yeah, that could be the case. I wouldn't be...
it could also be the case that, they don't know what she looks like. I don't know.
But then, again... coming into or playing into the theme of conveying certain things to the future or taking certain things into the future, which is also a very important thing in this show, like taking the memories of people who don't live that long as other people, like being their monument, by their living monument, which she is for her old party who, have died or will all die at a certain moment, and all the people she is with now as well, right? She is making memories with them and taking these memories into the future so that maybe people can still learn about them in the future. They won't be forgotten, right? Mm-hmm. You only really die if the memory of you dies, I think is one of the things that is also said in the show. So
that's real.
Considering that, I would say, like, yeah, maybe write this shit down, demons. Maybe draw some pictures, like draw a manga. It's just it was really funny to me. Demons, funny guys, at least to an extent.
Maybe not quite as cautious as the demons from Kimetsu no Yaiba.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of them, maybe don't know more what they're doing. I mean, it doesn't save them ultimately, but yeah, maybe it would do the demons from Frieren good to be a bit more cautious. But yeah, it's fun, and yeah, this journey is fun, and Frieren is a fun character, even though she's not super emotional or anything. But that's also fun part because she treats certain things so matter of factly, and her mumbling when Stark is trying to wake her. Just another 12 hours is peak Monday me. Like, I get it. So I love that moment so much.
She's just like me, for real.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, she's not alone on this second trip, right? So who does she meet in the second episode already? That becomes a very important key factor in this journey.
Well, I think that's when she reunites with Heiter, who was the priest of the old party.
The corrupt priest.
We do a little bit of drinking on the side, even though we're supposed to be chaste. Don't worry about it.
Yes, she lovingly calls him that every time he's like hungover or doing something not really, faith-ish.
Not very priest-like.
Not very priest-like. He is. She calls him corrupt priest or whatever. So it's fun. Yes, should they reunite for a brief moment?
You're supposed to be a man of the cloth. But that's when Frieren is introduced to this girl Fern, who was an orphan from she's just an orphaned war refugee, I believe.
Yes, she lost her parents in a war, and I don't know if it was war or demon attack or whatever, but when Heiter meets her, she actually tries to kill herself. I think she tries to throw herself off a cliff, and Heiter convinces her that, she should keep her parents' memories alive by not ending her own life, and, which is one of the core themes of the show, like I said. And, Fern wants to repay him by becoming a strong enough mage to look out for herself.
Yeah, so Heiter takes her in, and as Heiter gets up there in age, Fern, does her best to take care of her, and like you said, she's training to do the mage stuff. And that's when Frieren rolls around, and it takes a little bit of convincing.
I would say it takes a little bit of trickery on Heiter's part.
It takes a little bit of convincing. But Heiter manages to have Frieren take Fern in as a student. And boy, does Fern learn some things.
Yes. I mean, she's one of the main reasons, or aside from the stuff that, what Timmel did for Frieren, Fern becomes one of the main reasons why, she acts the way she does and why she's more considerate towards humans and so on, because Fern is the daughter to Frieren, but also partially her mother, because, Frieren is really laid back and does have a different concept of time and responsibilities and everything. So Fern is always the one getting up early and making sure that groceries are being bought. And she is, very... Her time with Heiter has made sure that she knows how things are run. And if everything is not done properly and the way she has conceptualized it, then she's very quickly very angry, very upset, but not in a loud way, because none in this show, except for maybe Stark on occasion, but especially Fern is not a loud angry. Like, she's always sulking, and she's sitting on the bed and making this face right where she's like
the big puffed out cheeks,
very grumpy, and Frieren and both Frieren and Stark are scared of her. But she's the worst thing she does is just very delicately hammering her fists against the chests of other people. But, she has this aura around her that is very dangerous. And she becomes such a strong mage in her own right because, of course, first she's very adept to magic, apparently. But also she has a great teacher in the form of Frieren, who is just like this uber mage. And, of course, Fern is bound to become incredibly powerful. And people, of course, underestimate her a lot due to her demeanor and, the way that, because she always uses basic spells just like Frieren. But once she actually unleashes it, everyone is like, oh, fuck! I cannot beat her. Probably. So, yeah, she becomes a really, really strong mage in her own time. It's also, that is an interesting party setup, right? Like, in what RPG party do you have two mages and one warrior? That is kind of rare, I would say. Like, the way this is set up, so the battles are maybe a bit different than they are in other parties, and even the back half or what we saw in the from the fights or experiences Frieren had with her previous party, because that had two melee fighters, one healer, and a magic user, the classic setup. But in this, now in the second journey, it's like two overpowered mages and one melee fighter and no healer, really. I mean, they have... Yeah. They sometimes get, we get guest characters for a while, like for 1 or 2 episodes or 3. Like Zine is one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, besides Zine, that's...
Kraft, I guess, for 1 episode, right? He's a monk. Does he do healing spells? I think he does healing spells or something like that. I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
But Zine definitely. And, then we have later some other characters in the test exam that they partially team up with and so on. But, this is the setup. And it was kind of unusual and made the battles interesting because they're, of course, more magic-focused than maybe in other shows of this kind. So that was cool. I like that. And, So, yes, Fern becomes Frieren's apprentice and has to deal with a lot of shit. In one particular episode with Frieren and Eisen at the same time. Like, both two characters with long lifespans who like to just hang. And one from a tree, the other one, I don't know. And you immediately realize Fern is not okay with that. And, but it's fun. I feel like I liked her, but in certain moments I felt like she definitely got too much into her companion's business. Like, there was some moments where, like, if Stark wants to stay up late and drink juice, let him, for fuck's sake. None of your beeswax, woman. Especially if he doesn't know that, you know, Frieren and Fern were already done with the first mage exam. Like, Fern definitely needs to learn to relax and be less uptight, and that's part of her character journey, right? She needs to learn that she can't always just lash out at people or just not trying to immediately withdraw herself if she is upset, but instead talk to people instead of sulking. So that's part of her journey. And so some of the moments I was like, God, Fern, relax.
I mean, I get it because they're trying to paint her as like a motherly figure to the party, which, you know, okay, I get that.
A motherly or a wifely figure, because she and Stark obviously have a romance thing going on, obviously.
I mean, Zine even says, why don't you two get together? He says it in so many words.
Why don't you just start dating already? I love that moment. I was like, yes, you're right. God damn it. Get it over with, you two. This is so tiring. And yes, I mean, these moments are also cute, right? When they actually learn to express affection for each other, but it's like this very teenage-ish love. Stark is very much acting like a child. Fern is very much trying to go in the exactly other direction, but too far at certain moments where she's like immediately upset when something doesn't go her way and everything, and, you know, taking some things the wrong way when they are not meant that way. So it's, you know, it's a bit tough, and Frieren is in the middle there, but also sometimes receives that anger because she's not, you know, she's too laid back in certain moments. But she's also, you know, it's not just Fern who is like exhibits this mother role, because Frieren definitely exhibits the mother role towards Fern. Like, that's her role. You know, she's obviously older, and in certain parts she's not as responsible as Fern, but it's definitely her role to guide her and to show Fern how she needs to tackle her life and how she needs to approach certain things. And she teaches her about the world and everything. So she's definitely a mother character, especially to Fern, partially to Stark, but also Fern is partially a mother character to Stark, but also romantic interest and so on. So there are a lot of interesting dynamics in this party makeup. And due to the virtue of Frieren being this kind of complicated, funny character, because she's partially also acting like a child, but she's this incredible old person, and she's always really mellow. Like, she always seems kind of relaxed in the face of the most ridiculous shit. And, you know, it's a really interesting character type that you don't see that much as a main female character. She's very unusual. A lot of characters in the show feel very unusual. I mean, Fern as a type too. You get these uptight character types, but usually they are then also very loud and angry, and she isn't that, right? She's very she pulls her emotion also back, just like Frieren. There are not that many big emotions in the show. In some parts there are, but they're more conveyed through the music, through the importance of certain character developments happening in that particular moment. They're not necessarily expressed loudly by the characters themselves. So it's a very interesting way to handle this, and I feel like that is kind of unusual. You don't see that often with these, especially with, you know, with these fantasy stories and action stories in a way. That have left kind of an RPG-ish character, or at least adhere to certain tropes that are very familiar. And yeah, I appreciated it. I appreciate that some of these characters felt very different, the way they reacted to certain standard things happening. I don't know how you felt about that, especially when it comes to, you know, Frieren and Fern.
It kind of goes for the whole show, not just for the interaction with the characters, that it just feels like everyone's just vibing, man.
Yes, it's definitely a vibe show. Yes, I would totally agree with that.
And that really comes through, especially in the way, you know, the characters act towards each other. And of course, you know, there are changes that happen, that's for sure, but it's still very, you know,
very gradual, very slow, and also very very minor at points, it feels like really, really minor moments, but still nonetheless important. So it's just a very slow process. And I like that the series takes its time. I mean, towards the end, I also felt like, okay, maybe you could speed some of this up, right? I was fanning it. But also, there was still enough interesting new stuff happening. And we get always, especially in the back half, we get introduced to, like you said, there are a lot of characters in this show. We don't spend that much time with anyone really outside of our three main characters. A lot of these are just, for now anyway, guest characters that stick around for a couple of episodes and then they're gone. I would say like the biggest addition, at least for a while, comes in the last, 5 episodes, 10 episodes of the show, where we have like this magic exam thing going on, where we get introduced at once to a lot of new characters, and those stick around for these couple of episodes because it's like a closed off test environment, and due to that we have to deal with all of these characters for a couple of episodes, and that's fun in itself because we get to spend actually more time with other characters and don't solely focus on our main three characters. Don't get me wrong, I love our three mains, but it's also fun to then actually spend some more time with these other characters, while before that a lot of this was just this slice of lifey journey thing where, hey, this episode we're in this town, this episode we're in this town, completely new cast of side characters, and you will never see them again after this. So it was nice that the show changed that up a bit by the end. And it doesn't mean that the side characters we only meet for one episode aren't interesting, right? There are enough interesting characters are there, but of course, some of the later ones are more memorable because we've spent more time with them. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of makes sense to that some of the characters, we don't get to see them for a long time because, it's a journey. They're constantly on the move, so not every side character is going to stick around, and it only makes sense during the mage certification exam, whatever you want to call it, that, yeah, of course, we're going to see, oh God, how many characters was it? And we're going to get to know them at least a little better.
A little bit. Some of them more than others, of course, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We'll definitely learn a lot about Denken. We learned some stuff too about Übel, about Wirbel and stuff like that. But and of course, 2 other girls,
Frieren and Kanna. That's it.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely those. And we might see them down the road again. We might see Zayn again, right? So
I am willing to put money on we'll see Zayn again because he had his own story that we haven't seen the rest of it.
But I also really like that he was only around for a couple of episodes and he was like, no, I'm going to take off and do my own thing for now because that is my own journey and you have your journey. And it's so unusual. I was like, oh, here comes the new priest, right? They need a healer. So he's going to stick with the crew. And then he's like, no, after 3 episodes, no, this is my goal. This is your goal. And I'm going to head that way. And I was like, oh,
unexpected, but really cool.
Really cool. So yeah, like you said, I would bet money on it that they meet him as well, and will be interesting to see during the time they did the magic exam stuff and so on, what he did in that time. Did he meet his friend? Did they reunite? Did something else happen? Maybe when they meet him, they need to get him out of a bind or something like that. It's really, really cool that they have like this, that they touch other people's lives like for a short while and then they move on, and we might or might not see these people again. That keeps things like that keeps the anticipation high. It's like, I love this character, but you only got to meet him for like 2 episodes, but maybe we'll meet him again down the road, because they're also on a journey. So yeah, you have these different story paths that might intersect again at some points. And now that all these different new characters are introduced in the back half of the show, we might also see a lot of those again down the road.
I think, now I'm thinking about it, didn't they do that with Kraft, where we saw him in one episode and then we saw him again briefly later on?
Very briefly, but only in a side bit, because he kind of saved Übel, or not really. Like, he saved actually the bandits that were trying to rob her, because he knew that she killed the other bandits in the vicinity. So he's like, So that we saw him in
saving them from you.
But that was really interesting. Like, that was, we know this character, And he's also on his own journey, and we know what he's about because he spent one episode with our characters. And so that's really, really cool way to do this. Like having once again, like get, reacquainted with some of the characters or see what part of their journey they're at now. So really interesting idea to handle the storytelling in this. But yeah, we haven't talked about our third main member yet, and we definitely should give him a few sentences.
Yeah, that's Stark, and he's the warrior. He's the one who took up the axe. A warrior in every sense. Well, Final Fantasy XIV is where I know the warrior job from. And he's a pretty good-natured guy, but he's not the bravest.
No. He absolutely is. He's super strong.
He studied under Aizen.
Yes.
And he kind of ran off. and Aizen wasn't like, he didn't get mad, but he wasn't super pleased with that. But, at his instruction, he joins Frieren and Fern.
I mean, Aizen kind of also partially blames himself for that, right? The initial backstory of Stark, and we get filled in on that a bit more down the road, but his village got attacked by demons and he ran away. So he considers himself a coward, and he is, by the definition of the word, in certain parts he is a coward. He is, he tries to avoid risks, he gets scared easily and stuff like that. He's a bit of a Zenitsu type without being an annoying shit stain.
Yes.
He is.
I'm glad he's not like that.
Yes, he's not overly loud. He sometimes yells. He's
he complains a bit, yes, but he's not like overbearing about it.
Yes, exactly. And not all the time, not always in your face, not screaming at the top of his lungs and everything. He's sometimes just freaking out. And it's always funny. The way he reacts cowardly to certain things, it's not so over the top that it gets annoying. It's so funny when he sometimes gets loud. And, but the cool thing about him is he's actually super, super strong, just like Zenitsu is, but he has agency. He's actually going out of his way, despite his fear, helping people. And, because he's so strong, what did Aizen say? He hit him not because he was angry with him, but because he was scared when they had a training session. Because there was like this moment of instinct where Stark was about to unleash his full power in a way, and Aizen realized that instinctively and got so scared that he just hit him with his hard punch and gave Stark a scar on his forehead that he still has. But that was not because he was angry. He was just scared, right? So he knows what the thing is. I think he also had the same experiences to an extent like Stark. That's why he also took him on as an apprentice, because he could empathize with him. And because he thinks that Frieren would also be a good teacher for him and, be a good environment, and he would be a good addition to the party, he asked her to please take him on as a party member as well. And yeah, so that's how they join. He fights a dragon, which is super cool, that fight. Like, once you actually realize how strong he is, where he sits next to this giant, like, cliff in the mountain, and you realize, oh, he did that. That's actually crazy. What the fuck? So, yeah, he's a really fun character. He's like of course, he's the only guy for most of the time in this team constellation. So, and he's a bit of a child, to an extent more irresponsible than Frieren, and, not always thinking about what he's saying. He's also bad with people, especially interpreting certain things that Fern does and everything. And that fucks him up a lot. Like, I love this moment where Fern is complaining that Frieren doesn't understand her, and Stark is just like, I don't understand you either. It's just, she gets mad again. It's peak comedy. I love that moment so much. And there are several moments of those. And like I said, there's a slow developing romantic thing between the two. It's not really emphasized or anything, but that much. But you can quickly see that they start to care for each other in more ways than one, and that's really nice. And yeah, why he joins the other two is he wants to have a ridiculous and fun journey, just like Eisen had, who is now too old to travel, so he can bring back the stories of, his adventures back to Eisen as a payment for his death of being his student, or Eisen being such a good teacher to him and everything. So that's why he's going on his journey. So he wants to make memories. He wants to have cool stories to tell, because Eisen always told him cool stories of his adventures with Frieren and Himmel and Halter. So he wants to reward Eisen for that, because Eisen is just now an old man and can't be an adventurer anymore, even though he really wants to be. So that's nice. Stark is a really nice guy.
Yeah.
He immediately, and that happens several times in the show, every time they get to a new town, he immediately makes friends. It's a lot of these are like these small side scenes where it's like he hangs out with the kids of the town and plays with them, or he, there's like a shop vendor. There's like, Stark, nice to see you again. Here, have a loaf of bread or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And he helps them with like these daily tasks and whatever. And he's just a really, really cool guy. There's this cool moment like with Kraft, the monk they meet. Stark immediately takes to him because he sees like, oh, he's such a cool, strong character, and I want to be like him and everything. And it's just nice to see him idolize someone like he idolizes Eisen probably. And it's like, he's really a young kid. It's like he has to learn a lot of things, and he has to get more brave and everything. But he has a really good heart, and that shines through a lot of the times in this show. I don't know what your favorite part about with Stark was or whatever, but I think there were a lot of stand-up moments. And of course, his fights are super cool. Like the dragon fight, there's a fight against the demon, which is looks super good. And he's not as prominently featured in this show as the other two characters, I would say. As Fern and Frieren, I would say they get more screen time than him.
Well, being a tank is a thankless job.
Yeah. And the latter half of the show is about the magic exam, which he of course doesn't take part in. Mm. So maybe he'll get more screen time in another season or whatever, but
I mean, to be fair, during is it just before or just after the magic exam, one of the other mages, Weirbull, was like, I'm borrowing you. Yeah. And he does a good job, and Weirbull, respects that, so.
Yeah. He like I said, he kind of always leaves a good impression with everyone except maybe Fern. Like, yeah. Is there this moment where he looks at the clouds and he's like, oh, they look like boobs. Oh, they look like poop. And Fern is in the background. It's like, oh God, he's such a child. He's a funny guy, and he doesn't do anything bad or anything. He's just a bit of still a child. So that's fine.
He's just a goof.
He's a goof. He's a big old goof. He's a bit scared sometimes, but he's nice. So I think he's a good part of the team, and he delivers a lot of the comedy in the show. Aside from Frieren, of course, because she also does a lot of funny shit. But what's the one of the funniest scenes that Frieren does? Yeah, right. When she tries to convince Zayn to join their party because he wants to travel with elder women, with mature women, and of course Frieren considers herself that because she's an older woman, but that's not what Zayn means.
No, it's not.
And her charms are completely lost on him. Does her skills, quote unquote, of seduction definitely don't work on him. So that is really funny. But also she is not like insulted by that or doesn't, sulk or anything because of it. She's just like, oh, that didn't work. Well, I tried. So that's funny. I think one of the only jokes that I didn't like in the show was that they did 2 or 3 times, and it's such a bad trope. There is like, in the beginning, when we meet Fern, she's still a little kid, and then, Frieren takes her under her tutelage and everything. And then, of course, Frieren grows and becomes, I don't know how old she is for the main time of the show. Is she like 16?
Oh, Fern?
Yeah.
She
16 or 18? Or?
I think during the bulk of the story, she's 18 for the bulk of the story.
Okay. And of course there is a joke about Fern's tits now being bigger than Frieren's and Frieren being self-conscious about this. I wish this wasn't in here. The show is pretty good at avoiding bad anime tropes, but this is one of the lamest ones that is in way too many series. And thankfully the show doesn't linger on it.
No.
I think it bothers me so much here because Frieren outside of the scene is not painted as a woman that would give a flying fuck about whether another girl has bigger boobs than her or not. It just feels out of place and tropey and dumb, and they bring it up at least twice in the show, if not more. So that's like, guys, that doesn't make sense.
I only remember the one time when they were on the wagon and she's laying down in Fern's lap, and then
I can't see the sky. No, right?
Yeah.
But there's this other moment where they walk next to each other. It was very much at the beginning of the show where she remarks on Fer now being 16 years old or something, and then she looks at her sideways. And they talk about food or something, or not genetics, I don't know, so upbringing or something like that. And she looks at her tits and is like, is that all it is? Right? It's this side glance of her where she just glances at Fern's tits and is like, really? And then she looks at her own, and then, you know what this is about.
Yeah, I guess I had put that one out of my mind.
Yeah.
Just because the second time it was just sort of, okay.
Yeah.
And they just touched on it and then walked away from it.
Yes, and I'm glad they don't do that like in every episode or something. But again, it just stuck out to me because it doesn't make sense in regards to Frieren's character, really, because she doesn't feel like a character who would care about this kind of stuff. Like that it would matter to her in any possible way. I mean, she cares about her hair. We know that. But aside from that, not much time is spent on her thinking about looks or anything, or comparing herself really, like in terms of appearance to other people. So that doesn't seem to be an elf thing to do, and it just felt out of place. And
I guess sometimes it just happens for elves. I don't know.
Maybe. You already talked about the soundtrack and how good it is. Like, there's this wide selection of sweeping orchestral tracks, and we have this more relaxed, somber, folky songs. I think it captures the atmosphere of this world and the characters' emotions on the adventure really well. They're like when there are like actual battles, I feel like the music picks really up and gets really exciting and everything. So they also do a good job there, but they also really are able to highlight the emotional moments well with the music. So yeah, I like that a lot. And John, I think we both can agree we are just really happy to see some good fantasy anime that is not isekai or video game or light novel related.
You know that one meme with I can't think of his name now. With Gordon Ramsay, finally some good food.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Like I'm searching my brain to think of the last time we had like a really, really good fantasy anime, and it's escaping me.
There was one in recent time. I mean, yeah, there definitely was one, but we watch so much anime that's sometimes hard to remember. I think if we look at our review list, we would find one. Like, I feel like Somali and the Forest Spirit was a good fantasy.
True,
right?
I mean, there's going to be one that I know for certain we're going to talk about next season that was also really good. So and there's a little bit of a resurgence, but it took time.
Yeah, and one you haven't watched and that I really liked is Made in Abyss, right? So, but that is also a bit video game-ish feeling anyway. So, even though it's not video game related, but yeah, there's.
I guess I could have made the argument that Yohane of the Parhelion kind of is.
Maybe, but that's also a spin-off of something else that is something completely different, and the focus is not necessarily on the fantasy story.
That's true, and then Orphan. Orphan.
Yes.
God, Orphan.
And that's an old show, right? So, and again, light novel related. So
it starts off so strong, and then it just devolves into nonsense. Like, I didn't understand. Like, I watched it beginning to end. I didn't understand what was going on at the end. I guess Orphan's a god now. I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, I think this one is, just in terms of being a clear-cut fantasy anime with a really interesting concept, it's really stellar. And I recently talked to a colleague of mine, and she's into fantasy stuff and actually writing her own fantasy novel right now and everything. So I recommended, because she's also into history, I recommended Vinland Saga to her. But I also definitely will recommend this one to her because this is just a really good fantasy story, period. In all aspects. And then it has this interesting hook with the different experience of time going for it. So yeah, cool shit. What you said earlier, that this is mostly a vibe show. I would agree to that, like I said, and it's one of the strongest, or one of the things where you notice that maybe the most, that it's nice that they stay a while always at the place where they do one of the side quests after the fact, like in the city, for example, after defeating the demons, or in the magic in the city after doing the magic exam and so on. And we have like these, hey, we're having a party, or we eating something, or we buying shit or whatever, and it's good vibes, like with these characters hanging out in this environment and not immediately moving on to the next thing, the next step on their journey. So that was definitely one of the things that stuck out to me. Like, what was a good one? Episode 12 is like this great character-focused episode. There's enough funny bits in there, like Frieren wanting to give Stark a potion that dissolves clothes for his 18th birthday.
Jesus Christ.
It was actually the episode, I think, where Stark sees boobs and poop in the clouds, much to Ferd's chagrin. But there's also some really heartfelt stuff when Stark realizes that both his older brother Stolz and his teacher Eisen always made him ridiculously big hamburger steak for his birthdays to commend his hard work as a warrior, because that is part of the thing of society in that particular part of the land. And we get filled in on why exactly Stark ran away from his village, and see how this is still fueling his guilty conscience and so on. So it was great that we, aside from, the action stuff, the slice of lifey stuff, we also got like these great character-focused episode that really dives into the backstory of our characters. Frieren gets the most of this, I would say, but Stark also has some strong ones in the few episodes where it's the focus. Fern, of course, has that as well, though not as much, because a lot of what she experienced with Haita. So maybe we'll get more into her early childhood later on, but her character-focused episodes are mostly about her coming to an understanding with Frieren, they having this respective mother-daughter relationship that is sometimes reversed, and Frieren really making an effort trying to understand trying to understand Fern, trying to consider her feelings. There's this episode, I think, where she tries to buy a gift for her, right? Like a real considerate gift that Fern would like, which is really tough for her. And these then are the episodes that are also focused on Fern and that are really interesting. And her, of course, trying to get along with the other characters and trying to get over herself sometimes, and her strictness. But all the little stuff that doesn't really matter to the character development or the main plot or whatever, if there really is a main plot to speak of, aside from, hey, we need to get to that one place. But all this little stuff with, the running gags with Frieren being always stuck in mimics, and the funny spells the legendary spells she finds, like removing mold or tough oil stains.
Come on.
Yes, very useful. I didn't say they're not useful. It's just interesting that they're called legendary spells.
Lost to time.
Yeah. And speaking of the magic, like, the further we go into the show, the more interesting the concept of magic becomes, like in how it works in this world and how it's set up, like that it's a very visual kind of things that, spells are visual constructs. They can't produce effects you can't picture in your mind. And that is really interesting. And they actually weave that into the battles and how the tide of the battles can turn because the way certain characters can imagine their spells. And if there's actually one character that is super overpowered because of the way she perceives reality, because she's a psychopath and she can literally imagine anything happen and being able to cut anything. And, that person is basically just a piece of cloth, so I can just cut its head, their head off. And yeah, it's really fun. A really fun idea to how to set up magic. And, also the small spells then being really important from a character perspective, like, Flammes and Frieren's favorite spell of creating a field of flowers is, one of the key spells in this show, and that gets brought up several times because, it's also important to Himmel for a specific reason. And, we learn more about that the further the show progresses and why that spell is particularly important to which character and so on. So, yeah, really cool. I love the world building in this and the character building. Later on, there's a character introduced that is maybe even older than Frieren. We can't be sure about that. That's Seria. And we don't know if she will become, again, more important later on. She's basically just kind of an obstacle there for a while. But it's also interesting because she's also, this all-powerful mage and basically this living grimoire and everything. And it's really funny, the spell that one of the characters gets from her because of a past test. And I bet she didn't see that coming. It's really funny. So, yeah, I wonder if she will be brought back later on in the show. I generally wonder where the show is going to go in future seasons outside of, they're trying to reach heaven and maybe Frieren trying to talk to Himmel again, and what the other characters do and how that journey will actually wrap up. And I hope we will see more of that. John, do you know how many manga chapters were covered by the show so far and how much is still left?
So it looks like it went up to about chapter 60. Let's find out real quick if I can figure out how many chapters of the manga there are. Thank you, fandom wikis. You sometimes come in handy. So we're currently on volume 13 as of April. Chapters not in volumes. 130 is the newest, and it was released May 8th. So we're about halfway through what's currently available. Interesting.
So we'll see when we get another season. With these
I hope so.
I mean, I think the show was a big success. It was certainly the most talked about show in the particular season it started in, I feel like. That is not necessarily reflective of, Blu-ray sales or whatever, but I feel like a lot of people came away from that show with a very positive experience. So I would assume we will get more of this, and the manga is popular. So I think there will be more. I hope so, at least. I mean, where did it air? Crunchyroll?
Yeah, in the States it was mainly on Crunchyroll, but depending on where you live in this world of ours, you can find it. It's on a ton of services. I'm just looking on Live Chart right now, and I'm not going to run down all of them, but you'll be able to find it.
Yes, you should definitely because this is one of the best fantasy series, one of the best anime series in recent times. So definitely check that out. But before we move over to other topics, John.
Oh, you warned me about this.
Since a lot of the names in the show kind of adhere to the Kojima school of naming, as that they are really funny on the nose if you speak that particular language, in this case German, I thought I'd come up with a little quiz for you. Would you be willing to participate?
I will try.
Okay.
I told you previously, I was looking up names as I was going along because I was curious, and I did not retain all of them. So
okay, then it's a bit of a cheat, but also I didn't warn you in advance or tell you to not look it up. So it's okay if you still remember them, and we'll just see. So here are the conditions. From the German character name, without looking it up, I want you to guess the English translation. And since I don't want to make it too hard for you, here are some qualifiers. It's going to be only character names, no places or monsters. Yes, there are also a lot of those that have on-the-nose names, like that beachside town called Warm. But no, just characters for this quiz. And only characters whose names have a direct connection to either a characteristic or skill that defines them.
Okay, all right.
So random seeming names that I couldn't make immediate sense of in context of who the characters are or what they do are out. So no Linie, no Kanne, and no Land, and some of the other weird ones. So yeah, got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay then, let's play a round of How Kojima is that German name? Please welcome our Please welcome our only contestant, John. Of course, the audience is welcome to guess along with the contestant. I have a list of 60 names here. Each of them will award you 1 point.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, we of course start with our main character, our main girl, Frieren. So, what do you think is the English translation for her name?
Isn't it like freezing, frozen, cold, along those lines?
Freezing would be correct, yes. Very good. The next one, her most important party member, Himmel.
Wasn't it? Was it? Shoot, and like I said, I know I looked a lot of these up. Wasn't it like soldier or warrior?
Think of where they're going on their second journey.
Oh, right, heaven.
Mm-hmm. Well, Himmel could be either sky or heaven, but I think in this context, heaven makes more sense. So yes, I will let that pass.
You know what? I was getting confused because there was some shoot 'em up game. I can't remember what it was called, but I think it was like had this German subtitle called like Himmelsstürmer, and I was like, sure, all right.
Okay, so next one, the corrupt priest Heiter. Think of what kind of character he is. He laughs a lot.
Joyful, joyous,
jolly. Yes, okay. Exactly. Then we have Eisen.
This one I know for sure, thanks to Super Robot Wars, and it's like iron, steel, that sort of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Because one of the mechs in Super Robot Wars is Alta Eisen, scrap metal.
Exactly.
They just call it scrap metal.
I know. German names are funny. All right, well done so far. Okay, the next one. The second girl in the new party, Fern.
It's like remote or distant.
Yes, well done. Which kind of describes her character as well, and
yeah,
she's emotionally distant, just like Frieren sometimes, but in a different way. Okay.
I was looking up the first definition was remote, and I was like, no, distant. I guess in the most literal sense,
yeah.
But
no, distant feels more like it makes sense. Stark.
I think that one was strength.
Strength, strong. Just strong in this case. Which is funny because it's kind of ironic considering, his actual character, is more cowardly, but, his physical strength. Yes. Physical strength, yeah. Okay, next one. This is one of the most difficult ones, I would say, but maybe you'll get it. It's the first demon we meet, Qual. And it's not necessarily super related to anything he does directly, but it's a very demonish name. It's very close to what you would name a demon, maybe in English, like something that would describe a lot of demons, maybe.
Oh, this one I didn't like.
Or something they do to other people, that they cause.
Pain?
Yeah, very pain adjacent. It would be agony.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for some reason I didn't click on that one being German, but I guess it sort of made sense.
All the names in the show are German. Aside the spell names. I don't know if they're a different language or made up, but yeah, the towns, the monsters, the characters, all of them are German names. It's ridiculous.
I feel like the spell names are probably made up.
Yeah, so Trag sounds very made up. It doesn't sound Latin or anything. Okay, another demon. Lügner. What does he do? He talks a lot and not necessarily.
I'm trying to remember.
It's about the things he says and what they are.
Confidence? Brashness?
Nope.
I'm not sure then.
Liar.
Oh.
He lies a lot. Okay.
That's right, yeah.
One of his subordinates, Draht. Also, maybe a tough one, but think of how he fights. What does he do to, or what does he try to do to Frieren? And how does he try to do it? What does he do to the guard?
I'm trying to remember specifically.
He cuts off their head. With what?
Doesn't...
Can take a wild guess, otherwise I'm gonna resolve it.
Go for it, I'm not sure.
Wire.
Wire.
Yes, he cuts off the head of the guards with a wire, and he tries to do the same for Frieren.
I couldn't remember that specifically.
I mean, to be fair, this could also have meant overconfident dipshit, and it would have applied just the same, but, you know. Draht is wire, so there you go. Alright, next one. Very adjacent to Stark. Kraft. So bad guy in Mega Man 04, I think.
Yeah. For some reason he was there. That's a different discussion. Wise?
Now, what's another word for, you know, what... Actually, just the same word, just a bit differently than what Stark is. It's not an adjective, it's a noun.
So not strength, but might?
Well, okay, no. Stark was strong, so Kraft is strength or power, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, okay.
That works. I let it count. Might works as well. Then Stark's brother, Stolz. That would mostly relate to the feelings of their father towards Stolz and of Stark's feelings towards Stolz. That describes pretty much what this would translate to.
Loyalty?
Well, maybe I misled you. Like, he is like the poster child warrior of this town, right? Like, he is the example. So what do you think does their father feel towards Stolz?
Pride?
Right. Correct. Yes. Very good. All right. Then we have our favorite psychopath girl, Übel.
This one I actually know is evil.
Yes, very good.
Which I kind of picked up on because it's spelled different. It's technically spelled wrong, but there is a Yu-Gi-Oh card called Yubel. So,
oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, they spell it. They tried to dumb it down, and they spell it Y-U instead of U with the umlaut.
Okay. Maybe they didn't have that available. I don't know. Not every keyboard has umlauts.
That's not much of an excuse.
That's true. But yeah. Okay. This one is maybe, again, a bit tougher. But it relates to her powers. Lawine. So what kind of spells does she use? What element are they based in?
One of them was...
Kanne was the one with water spells. Lawine was the one with...
Oh, right, ice.
Right, so, but it's not directly ice. It's something that relates to ice and snow and is a force of nature.
Blizzard?
No, try to think of mountains. Something that occurs there that is related to snows.
Oh, avalanche?
Yes! Very good.
Okay, alright.
We have 3 more. You're doing well. You're doing super well. Okay, so Denken. He is a very smart man. So what does he do a lot? That's an easy one.
He did a lot of reading or studying?
Close enough, but that would be another character. That would be Lernen. And I thought this was not evident enough, so I didn't pick him. But no, it's something you do every day. Something you might do right now because of this quiz.
Thinking?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Think or thinking. Laufen. She's a very quick girl. She has speed-based spells. So what could this mean? It's something you do.
Running?
Yes, very good. And our final one, maybe the most difficult one. I didn't actually want to put it in here, but I thought it was funny.
Oh.
and that is Richter. And that more relates to not necessarily anything not to his spells, not to his outward appearance or whatever, but it kind of relates to how he acts towards other characters.
Indifferent?
I don't know if indifferent is the right word. I feel like he has certain preconceived notions about a lot of the characters and he likes to verbalize them. What kind of person does that? What would you call such a person?
Not a racist.
No.
I was gonna say
no.
I was gonna say I hope not, but that's what immediately comes to mind.
No. Well, if that doesn't help you, it is also a profession in the judicial system.
Oh,
the biggest one, probably.
Judge?
Yes, and he's very judgy towards other people. So,
that's true.
So it fits. It doesn't necessarily fit because of his power set or, is the way he appears and whatever, or his job, but because, he's a shop owner, but he's definitely a judgy character. So, John, you got 15 out of 16 points with a little bit of help, but I feel like, congratulations, your German skills are almost up to par with that of a certifiable video game creating madman. So, congratulations, I hope you're happy with that, and thanks for playing, this was fun.
Yay, I done did the thing.
All right, we'll see. Hey, maybe if there's a second season, we get a boatload of new German names, so we might have to do this again.
Oh, no.
So next time, if there's another season, don't look the names up this time around.
Oh, fine.
All right, and I think with this little bit of nonsense, we're almost done. We didn't talk about the ending of the show, which is kind of meta. There's this thing where the scene where Himmel says that saying long tearful goodbyes would be embarrassing if one was to meet their companions again down the road. And of course, a show that can't quite be sure if it will get another season, and with a somewhat abrupt end right in the middle of the story would leave us with that sentiment. So that kind of makes sense and is funny. It's like, hey, maybe, dear audience, we'll see each other again. So don't shed big tears of sorrow, and we're not going to say long, tearful goodbyes. We're just going to end it here and move on. So, yeah, that felt appropriate, but it was also a bit funny. But yeah, love this show. I love that one of the core themes is don't ignore the needs of the ones right in front of you, even if their burdens seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things, which is a thing that, becomes important to all of our main characters over the course of the series. And yeah, I like I said, I loved it, John. I think you feel the same, especially, as a fantasy anime that is not relying on other stuff. Light novel or isekai stuff. Oh, we forgot Ancient Magus Bride. That is also a good fantasy anime. Right.
I was thinking about it before, and I was like, well, I guess it kind of counts, and that was Dai no Daiboken.
Yes.
In a way.
That counts as well, I guess. I mean, that is also kind of video game adjacent.
Kind of.
So, yes. So, but it doesn't behave necessarily like a video game, maybe so. But yeah, this is definitely one of the best ones we've seen in recent time. I would say together with Ancient, from my side of things, with Ancient Magus Bride and with Made in Abyss and Somalia and the Forest Spirit, which we also only got one season of, which is a shame. But maybe that will also anytime, maybe come back. We'll see. But yes, before we leave you for this season, and this has already been an incredibly long episode, but as usual, in our season finales, there's still one little thing we have to do. Best of the season! Alright, yes. Best of the season. John, we didn't review that many shows this season. You and I together, we reviewed 2. I reviewed another one. So there's not a wide selection. But nonetheless, this was really tough for me. For you, it was probably easier, because you had only two to pick for, and I don't know for which you would go. I like Frieren a lot, don't get me wrong, but that might get a second season. And also it was more of a chill-out anime than one that, grabbed me fully from beginning to end. It was something to, turn on after work and relax and everything. It had good character moments and everything, but I was not completely gripped by the story from beginning to end. It was just like always, oh, this is interesting and this is nice and this is cool. But I was just clamoring to watch the next episode each week and so on. So I don't know. Again, love the show, but I don't know, in the face of the other two, I probably won't make it best of the season. I would love to give it to Undead Unluck, just because I love its two main characters so much, and the story, action and animation is also great. It's nothing to sneeze at, but that series is still ongoing as well, so it might get another chance, even if it aired on Disney+. I hope it will, because otherwise I feel really bad, because I think I'm giving this to Brave Bang Bravern. Because that show, just like Undead Unluck, also caught me completely off guard, surprised me in several different ways, made me laugh a lot. Just had a generally great time with it. So hilariously self-aware and fourth wall breaking. So unusual for what, at the beginning seems like a normal mecha show. It's a great one and done with a short runtime. So I can't recommend it enough for someone who is in the mood for something pretty weird and special. But really, in my heart, Undead Unluck and Bravern really share the number one spot this time around, with Frieren being a very close second, but I have to pick one. So it's gonna be Bravern, because that's just such a one-of-a-kind, ridiculous, dumb anime that you just don't always get. And the other two have a chance to, again, be on the list again. So I'm just gonna pick that one. But
yeah,
since we partially get to have our cake and eat it too, John, what is your pick, or what do you favor out of the two shows that you reviewed this season?
Bravern is great, and I really, really enjoyed it a lot for all of its stupid goofiness and the action and whatnot. But, Frieren, it was at the end of the week. It was just such a vibes show. It was just like, I could just sit down and watch this and have a great time getting to know these characters and explore this world with them. And so I really think that I would give it to Frieren. But, again, like I said, that is not discounting Bravern, because that show is crazy.
Yes.
In all of the best ways.
Absolutely. And I don't think we'll get another one of that. I would be really surprised.
I mean, I think the Blu-rays were selling really well, so...
Yes, they were. It outsold
maybe
a lot of
something
shit.
could happen, but, I don't think there's anything definitive.
Yes, we'll see. I mean, maybe a movie or something ridiculous, but I feel like the story, the way it finished up, works really well.
It was very definitive.
Yes, closed off thing. Really, really well done character arcs and everything. So I wouldn't be sad if we didn't get more of that. I, of course, would welcome it, but I wouldn't be sad if we didn't. So... That's fine. I hope we get more of Undead Unluck. I hope we get more of Frieren, because those stories are not finished. So I don't want to read the manga. I want to see this animated, because both these shows had also really great animation. Frieren, of course, being a bit better in that department, because that quality level was just ridiculous. So I hope the next season, if we get it, looks just as good. And with that, we're at the end of the season. The new premieres are not too far away, and we're gonna see all of you again once those come around, and we've watched those that interested us, and then we're gonna give you a sneak peek and our first review of the next season. What will that be? Well, you might say after the usual outro rant and listen to the teaser, and then you might get an idea what it might or might not be. So until then, see you around, guys.
So long, everybody.
And that is a wrap on the 157th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in this podcast is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Find us where all the podcasts live, but also check out animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Please leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice if you can. Follow us on the socials or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
Take care, everybody.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
The training begins in earnest for the final encounter.
And sadly, the yellow one has returned.
Ugh.